welcome back to He's a Giant, a pod about all things Giants football and all things college football, right on time as promised. I'm your host Sal with my co-host Monty. Thank you for everybody for being in the chat. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. I'm just trying to do some notes behind the scene, and then I got people in the chat yelling us to get on the stream. So here we are. We're here. We're gonna talk some Giants football. 'Cause some interesting stuff happened this week, and we're gonna go over some prospects that we missed first time around. Especially with us doing defensive tackles so early. There's some really good guys we haven't talked about at all.
Yeah, we wanted to make this episode about getting five front seven guys in, and that we could review as we head into really the home stretch of the draft cycle, because front seven is going to be a big area. The Giants are going to have to improve things. So this class is talented, man. We've already gone over. I was looking at our notes. I mean, man, we have so many players we reviewed that are solid in the defensive front, and we actually missed these guys. And they partially because they were guys who they were good, but they were not necessarily viewed as top five guys when the season began, and they just kept rising. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty solid group.
Yeah, man, it's a really, really good group. And it's funny, there's like guys that we haven't even talked about yet that we're not going to go over today. Shamar Stewart, TJ Sanders. There's some like really good defensive line prospects, and like it's seemingly endless. And hopefully we'll get some more of those guys as over the next few of these weeks. But we felt it was important to try to get through at least five more of these guys as we're approaching, creating our big board. A little teaser. We're gonna have our guy KSIXI again this year.
Hmm.
He's working on big board.
He's the
Sal,
best.
yes, he's the best, and Sal and I are working on our big board. So we're gonna both unveil ours together to you guys.
Yep, and that'll be next week.
Yep.
We'll get to what you're talking about. Leave the race. We're definitely gonna get to that thing. But yeah, we'll get to the big boards next week. We're gonna do the front seven, five more guys this week. But that's probably a good segue. Um, the reason I whipped out the old shirt today is because I thought it was appropriate. So, Monty,
Yes.
there's news this week. Good news. It looked like where Schechter and others are saying, like, it looks like the Browns might be, leaning towards Abdul Carter at two, which would theoretically leave Shador Sanders available to the Giants if they want to take him at three. Um, then you see the picture of Kirk Cousins out in a Chipotle in in Westlake, Ohio, just outside Cleveland this afternoon. And you're hearing stories that the Browns are working on trying to trade for Cousins, and it's
Hmm.
beginning to feel real. Like the Browns may really take Abdul Carter and get Kirk Cousins for the year, which would make sense since Miles Garrett's getting older and he got that big deal, and he probably want a veteran. Um, and I'm thinking, okay, the Giants will have the option to take Shador Sanders if he's there. And then today we hear from the Sears Tower guy, who's sort of like the Chicago Bears variant of Ricky, um, who's he's been right about some things, wrong about others, but he says, um, I've heard the Giants are looking to take Travis Hunter at three and then try to trade up to get Shador Sanders and pair them together.
You're not happy.
Why don't you give me your joyous bullshit first, and then I'll go into why I'm not happy.
All right. So my view basically on it is, I've been pretty open about this, that I haven't felt a huge need to trade up or anything like that. I've been pretty comfortable in our spot. I'm pretty comfortable that either we're going to get Shador Sanders or we are going to get an elite prospect here at three. I'm very comfortable with the idea of us taking Travis Hunter. I like the idea of getting Shador Sanders. I am rooting for us to get Shador Sanders. But, something we also went into going into this offseason is we wanted to said, fire these guys, or if you're going to bring them back and let them take a quarterback, then you got to extend them. They didn't do either of those things. And that's not me sitting here saying, fuck it, you didn't do that. I don't want a quarterback. But, like, there's a reason we said that, because this can go to shit if they take a rookie quarterback and fire them a year later. So the idea of we might save ourselves from, something like that is in the back of my head, all this. So I don't know. I'm kind of in the camp of, if they tried something like that and they missed, I don't give a fuck, because you can't hurt me as bad as you did last year, where you were an elite quarterback class with three guys who went in the next six picks available to you. You didn't like any of them. You had a minimum of 2 years for your head coach and GM to develop these guys and really be ready, and you passed on that opportunity. And now I'm like, fuck it. You set yourself up decently with this quarterback room. We didn't really talk about that yet, but they went out and got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. I feel pretty good about that. And if there is rumors out there that the Schefters of the world, the Rapports of the world, think if Shador gets past 3, there's a chance he could tumble a little bit, and he might not. But I also think that there's a world where this could be something that Dion is trying to get to happen for his guys. He would love nothing more to see those guys to play together. If there is any truth to this, I very much think he's probably somewhat involved in that. And fuck it, I'm here for, to me, the best case scenario in this draft would be the absolute best case scenario if they pulled it off. And worst case scenario, you still have the best player in the draft, and these guys are probably getting fired anyway.
I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms of what could happen, but here's the reality. One, I don't care what happens to Joe Shane and Brian Daboll after this year. We need a goddamn quarterback. Two, this idea that Brugler is pushing is that oh, Shador might just fall. He could be day 2. I have a lot of respect for James Brugler. He's one of the best in the business, but his takes on where quarterbacks are going to land ain't the best track record. He said the same thing about JJ McCarthy last year. He said the same thing about Michael Penix last year. People latched onto it and say, "Oh, they don't, look at Dave Brugler said. Look at what the PFF guys are saying. These guys aren't worthy of taking." We can. Do you remember these conversations? We can take Neighbors at 6 and trade back up for Penix or trade back up for JJ. That's the smart play. Not like you doofuses wanting to waste the 6th overall pick. You can't take 6th overall. I like him, but I don't like him at 6. Maybe we can trade back to 11 and take him. Maybe we can trade back up and take him at 28. It was a bunch of retard games being played by a bunch of retards. And what you got was no goddamn quarterback. What you got was Malik Neighbors, who's awesome, and you got everybody on the brink of being fired because you went fucking 3-14 because you don't have a quarterback. The people who pushed this were people who just didn't believe in the talent of Penix and JJ, right? They looked, JJ's hurt. He was hurt, so he missed the year, so we don't know what he is, but he looked pretty decent, at least in the spring. I mean, in the preseason. Penix looked pretty damn good in the 3 games he played. Forget about the stat line. Go watch his throws. Go watch how he processed. He looked like the kid at Washington. And we don't have a quarterback. And now the same people who told me they weren't worthy of taking are now saying, "Oh, Shador, I don't know how NFL teams view him. I'm not sure they like him that much." You know what's going to happen if the Giants pass on him at 3? He's going to get taken at 5 or 6 or 7. He will be gone because NFL teams that are serious don't take the quarterback position this unseriously. They jump on it. They say he's good enough to take. I'm either moving up to get him or I'm going to just draft him where he falls to me. But I'm not letting this kid get out of the top 10. I'm not letting him get out of the top 15. I'm taking my quarterback. Teams do that when they need a quarterback. They don't play stupid games. And what are you going to trade from the 2nd overall pick to where are we targeting? Pick 15? Pick
Something like that.
12? Okay. What are you going to give up to go from 34 to, let's say, what, 14 or whatever? I don't even know who's at 14, but something. What are you giving up? You're giving up next year's first for goddamn sure.
I don't think you're not. I don't think you are. The Vikings or the Lions came up from 34 to 12 for Jameson Williams. They traded back like 10 picks in the second round, gave
Mhm.
up a third round pick and a second round pick next year.
Quarterback tax. What do you think you're coming up for?
Okay, but you're talking about 15 or 16 too. Like, I don't think that that's going to be as a first round pick next year to come into the middle of teams from 34.
Okay, fine. You're giving up 2 or 3 third-round picks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Feel pretty good
Va-
about that.
Vontae Mack, no matter what. The draft day ass bullshit, right? I'll give you 3 second-round picks. What are we doing here? And for what? For Travis Hunter? Because that's what you're doing, really. You're giving up all those picks for Travis Hunter and praying the quarterback comes like falls to you so you can give up the picks to get him too. What is the point of that? I think Travis Hunter, you and I both say the same thing. Travis Hunter is the best player in this draft, bar none, right? We agree.
Yes.
This Abdul Carter stuff, I don't buy it. He's a great player, but he's not Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is a generational prospect. 100% I agree. We need a quarterback. We're going to do this for Travis Hunter. That's you really believe all those picks and all that stress and the downside risk of just missing completely on the quarterback. That's worth it.
What's the downside? What's setting
You
this
don't
franchise
get the
back?
quarterback.
So we're getting a new GM and head coach probably
But
next
you're
year anyway.
assuming
You
that.
want to force that on? Yeah, I am. I think it's a pretty safe assumption. You're assuming that too.
I think that if you actually so let's think about our offseason. So we've given Joe Shane credit. He's done a
Mhm.
pretty decent job in the offseason. He's handed out fair contracts to younger players that can be impact players for years to come, right? For the
Mhm.
most part. He hasn't done anything crazy. He brought in 2 competent veteran quarterbacks to fill out the room for a very solid price, right? 14.5 million total for Russell Wilson and James Williams this year. He's done things correctly. But all of those things, even with a really good draft class, even with Travis Hunter, is going to amount to maybe 6 or 7 wins, right?
Yep.
8 or 9 if you're lucky, right?
8 or 9's what's going to take to save him.
And how likely is that, right? It's probably
Not
not the
likely.
most.
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
but
A
I
rookie
don't
quarterback's
agree.
not saving them either.
I think it would. I
It
think that
would
if you
not.
get, I think you can do the
Not
same
not
thing.
Daboll.
I think you could do the same thing and bring in a rookie quarterback. And if you believe in Shador, him, you get him out there at the second half of the season, whatever, a few games, whatever it may be. You have hope for next year. You have
What
the ability to build off something, and there's something to build for this franchise. Otherwise, we are right back here a year from now, drafting 11th or 12th with no hope.
what head coach survives 6 or less wins for 3 years in a row?
Maybe Dable's a goner no matter what, right?
They
Outside of
barely survived this year.
I get
Barely
it,
survived. At least
but you
Dable.
have to give the fan base something. You have to give this organization some hope. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to push this decision until next year. Maybe a new GM, certainly a new coach comes in, picking 11th or 12th or 13th in a shittier quarterback class. And then what? We're waiting till what? Arch Manning? Is that what we're doing at this point?
In my opinion, you still draft a quarterback. You draft one in the second or the third round or whatever it may be, or you get Shador. That'd be awesome. But in the scenario that you missed out on Shador, and that plan doesn't work, you still grab one second, third round. You have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. You don't have to force these guys on the field at all. There's no reason they have to go on the field anytime before they're ready. And next year, whether it's Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, which I don't think it will be, or a new GM can say, hey, I can put this guy out in the field if I and see what he has if I don't like my quarterback options available to me. And if he's great, awesome. If he sucks, you're going to be picking high. And if you're in position to get a quarterback, even better. Who cares? It was a second, third round pick. Who gives a fuck kicking that guy to the curb if you find a guy in the first round you love?
Dude, this is a risky game, and I'm not sure what exactly you're getting out of it.
You're getting a very good football player in
One
Travis
very good
Hunter.
football player who's a great football player, but he's not a quarterback.
Sure.
As
But
great as he is, he's not a quarterback,
in
and
in
it's
in
not worth this.
and I'm pro taking Shador, but at the end of the day, I don't really see the huge negative of not ending up with a quarterback here. This isn't like last year was the year to get a quarterback.
I
This year
agree
is
with you.
this year is
I,
fucked in all
you
sorts of
you
ways.
you and I battled
Yes.
almost by ourselves last year with just a couple of other people against the entirety of Giants Twitter last year, battling and saying, if you can't trade up to get Drake May at 3, just stick and pick JJ or Michael Penix at 6. We stood that line, got berated for it, got attacked for it, still get attacked for it. We were right.
Hmm.
We were right. And I'm telling you that the same thing is going to happen this time. And I get your perspective that I don't care what happens to these guys. I don't care if they don't get to pick a quarterback because they blew it already, that they blew their chance. And I'm saying, screw these guys. Get the damn quarterback for the organization. Get the
and,
organization's quarterback.
and I'm cool with it. It's important, but part of the reason we were so adamant about that last year is because we are in a fucked situation right now and we saw it coming. And the reality is we are in a fucked situation. And me and you with clear heads where we had no fandom where we're biased, where we're just fans. I'm with you. I want to take Shador. I just want to get a fucking quarterback. But when we were sitting here level heads, not fans, just analyzing this, we said, if you're not going to extend these guys, they shouldn't be taking a quarterback.
Yep.
So,
But
I mean, so worst case scenario is we're forcing, they
but
force some
they
stuff to stick.
but they neither extended them nor fired them. They just brought them back.
We're
Here
no
they
man's
are.
land.
They are no man's land. The
Mhm.
organization is not. The organization will stand. The organization needs a quarterback, a real franchise quarterback. If these guys don't want Shador at 3, the reality is they don't want him. And my take on it is very simple. If you don't want the kid at 3, you don't want him. So don't play
Mhm.
stupid ass games and try to trade back up. Just take Hunter and roll with it. Just go. Russell Wilson is your god. Russell Wilson with his corny ass bullshit jokes, his loser ass attitude, and his bullshit ass arm that can't see the middle of the field. That's your king. Go down in flames with Russell Wilson if that's the case. Do not try to move up and trade future picks from the next GM to trade up and do what? Take who? Take who? You might not even get Jackson Dart at that point. What are we doing here? Either take the quarterback or don't take the quarterback and just accept what you are. This bullshit of like, I'm going to take the position player and find my way back up. Have you learned nothing from last year, Joe Shane? Is this really, this is what your brain taught you? This is what your experience taught you? Don't do this shit. Either take the quarterback or say, I'm not taking one. And Alex, no fucking day 2 quarterbacks. I don't need some loser who's going to be on a developmental thing for these guys for 1 year, who's going to get kicked to the curb by the next GM because that day 2 quarterback ain't playing next year.
See,
He's not playing.
I disagree with you there. I think
No,
having a day 2, I think they need to add a quarterback regardless to
they're
this
gonna have one.
roster.
Add him on day 3.
That's not a quarterback. That's not adding a
None
quarterback
of
at
them
this
are
point.
quarterbacks that are meaningful.
That's
They're
not
not gonna.
necessarily true.
A
If
day
you
2 quarterback will not survive this regime. They will not survive this regime. Who's surviving this regime if you're a
the
day 2
next
quarterback?
quarterback will the next regime will have its choice. If they see a quarterback in the first round that they want to take, then they will. And fuck that guy, who cares? We got a first round quarterback. But if not, they could Will Levis this guy. They could give him a shot. They could see what they have in this young kid, and maybe he will work out when he is the future. And if not, he's going to bottom out, and you're going to get a chance in a really fucking good quarterback class to get it instead of having
Monty's
to
idea
force
for
something.
And Monty and I've had this discussion before. Just so you guys, that's not the first time we're arguing about this. His idea, which is kind of actually
Because I
ingenious,
think you're
is
doing that potentially with Shador too, for the record. I think there's a real chance that if Shador struggles his first couple years, they're just going to kick him to the curb after 2
but
years, which is
Shador will
totally
actually play, and you have a legit shot of him being your quarterback. The
I
odds of
agree.
the other guys actually making it are low. What
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
saying is let them come in and suck us right into a top 5 pick in 2027.
Yep.
And but think about, we haven't even had the 2025 draft,
Yeah.
and we're talking about this.
Because
Think how
because they
fucked this
because they
is.
made a move by bringing back Joe Shane and Brian Daboll that stuck us in purgatory for an extra year. That's the reality of it.
They don't have to be. They can take their quarterback and fight their way out of it. They can.
And if they don't win enough games to maintain them.
I will be the one clamoring to keep them. How about that? And I think a lot of other people would too. If he takes his quarterback at 3, or he trades up for Cam Ward, if that's possible at all. If he takes one of those two and he has a decent draft with it coupled with a decent free agency, I think we should all get behind the guy and say he's doing the right thing. Keep them around.
Either you might feel that way, but you're going to end up in the minority of these fan bases, and they're going to be calling for
I
his job.
I don't think I would. If let's just for argument's sake say they just took Shador at 3, right? He slides to them at 3, which looks like it's very much possible.
Mm-hmm.
They take him and they have what, 7 more picks, good picks in a good class on day 2. Take those players, build the D line, all the stuff we've talked about, build the D line, build
Mm-hmm.
the O line, add depth. They come out. with Russell Wilson playing as a solid veteran, nothing great, but he's a solid veteran. They win some games. They Kurt Warner him, midway through the season. Shador comes in. Shador, he goes through some rookie bumps, but he shows some promise. The team is good. The young quarterback gets experience. He gets mentored. They have hope going into next year. You really believe the fan base is going to be clamoring for them to get fired at that point? I don't.
If they win 6 or less games,
I, I
100%.
I disagree. I think the fan base, if they see hope, they will be happy. The fan base is not upset just because we lose. They're upset because we lose and we're hopeless.
You've said it yourself. The only thing that matters is at the end of the day to prove that they're doing their job is wins and losses, and they haven't done that. You said that many times. And if their record tells them that they have 6 or less wins over 3 straight seasons, they deserve and should be and will be fired.
I don't think they would deserve to be fired if they actually took a young quarterback in the first round that they
Because
believed in.
because they took a quarterback a year late, they deserve to be get
If
extra time.
if they've coupled that with a decent roster and that young quarterback shows promise, yeah, I think then you deserve to come
What's a
back.
decent roster if you win 5 to 6 games?
Depends on how you get there, right? I mean, it does matter. If
So
that
let's
young quarterback's playing well, if the defense is playing well, that young defense you've assembled, if guys like Malik Neighbors are producing, if Tyrone Tracy has a decent year, I mean, there is nuance to this discussion. It's not a hard like you win this many games, you come back, you don't win this many games, you're out. I don't think it's that simple.
But at the end of the day, wins and losses is the most important thing here, and
I
you've made that argument yourself.
I agree. I'm just saying there's nuance
I,
to the content
I,
to the way you construct this, the way you get there. The context does matter. And if you're doing it with a rookie quarterback, it's a very different thing than getting to 6 or 7 wins with Russell Wilson.
I'll say this: do you think that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll deserve an extra year because they put off the quarterback decision an extra year?
I think they would deserve an extra year if they took their quarterback and they showed real progress with this roster, and that young quarterback showed promise this year. Yes, I would want them to
So
come
they
back.
deserve 2026 because they took a quarterback in 2025, but not because they took it in 2024.
Yeah, I would give it to them. Look, I
I
would have
disagree.
fired them. You know that. You know
I
that. I
would have
would have
too.
fired them. But here they are with a chance to do the right thing. If they do the right thing, I would give them that extra year.
I would not.
They're still under contract for next year, not just 25, but 26 also.
Yep, but that's the reality is nobody coaches on their final year of season. You're gonna have to extend them this off season.
Do it. I
No,
don't
don't
care.
do that. Don't
Do
do
it.
that.
Do
If
it.
these guys win 6 or less games, fire them. They are not
Dude,
good at their jobs.
at some point you have to
Why would
commit
you
to
keep a
something.
guys that are bad at their job for continuity? That's bullshit.
If they walk out of the draft weekend with their first round quarterback and they have a good draft class, and you look back at the offseason and say, you've done a good job. You've done a really good job. You've added quality to this roster. You've added a young quarterback. You've added veteran quarterbacks. I'm comfortable saying I'm going to give you 2 years to see
But
this
it
through.
didn't result in wins for in this
I'm
scenario.
comfortable doing it even before the season starts. I'm serious. I am.
That you think that just because they took a rookie quarterback and had a somewhat promising season with no results yet, that suddenly a guy who we're begging to get fired deserves an extension?
I would rather do that than what you're saying, which is let them hang on a thread all year and then dump them.
Obviously, we agree they should have been fired, and I agree that we should take Shador Sanders, but I am not giving them any more time just because they drafted a quarterback.
I disagree, but we'll see how it plays out. Anyway, I think that's the biggest argument we've had on this
I
show.
think so too.
And it's we usually agree on things,
Mhm.
but this is this you know how I feel. I'm strong about this, and I want them
Yeah,
to actually take quarterback seriously. But
and and I agree with you with most of the thing. Like I am pro taking Shador, but I am still
you
like
want Travis Hunter because he's so
no. It's
fucking good.
not about Travis. It's really
That's what
not
it
about
is.
Travis. Although should Travis Hunter and Shador be fucking cool? That's like my dream scenario. But my biggest thing is if these guys do not show results, I want them gone. And if I'm sticking to that plan, then I'm under the reality that there's a very good chance we're just going to fuck this quarterback up.
They could if they fire them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm
And
saying. Don't fire them. Commit to them. If they commit to
I'd
you, you commit to them.
I'd,
I'm
ra- I'd
serious.
rather put off the quarterback decision one year than keep these guys to an extension.
I think we just fundamentally disagree, friend. All right, we'll see how that plays out. Let's get into this. We got five guys to go over, so this is not our two-player episode that we've been doing in the post-season analysis. This is our traditional five players. So five front seven guys that we have not yet reviewed. So why don't we get into it? Um, who's starting? Which, all
um, why don't you start and I'll pull it up.
right, I gotta find where I put there. Here he is. All right. So our first guy is a guy who we didn't get to in our edge review, but who took college football by storm this year in a smaller program. And that is edge rusher Mike Green from Marshall. And for those who don't know yet, Mike Green is a kid who really fought his way to the top of this draft class. 6'4", 248 pounds. The kid was a monster this year, dude. He played 13 games, 719 snaps, 17 sacks in 13 games with 10 quarterback hits, 32 hurries and one batted ball. So that is quick math, 59 pressures and a batted ball. Insane. He plays purely outside the tackle, either directly outside the tackle or often he plays in a wide nine alignment. That's where he likes to play. His grading this year was bananas. 91.4 pass rush grade, 90.2 run defense grade, 90.9 true pass set rush grade, and a 20.2% pass rush win rate. That's elite. Anything above 20% is elite. With a 9.4% run stop rate, which is also elite. He dominated the competition he played. He played a lot of lesser teams, but he also played some good teams and he had good games. He played Virginia Tech, had a good game. He played Ohio State, had a good game. He really had good games against good competition. So he showed that he can be solid. So um, things I liked about him, I mean, when you watch him, for those who haven't seen Mike Green yet, he is explosive. If you don't remember, he was the dude at the Senior Bowl who destroyed Connerly's like week
Yeah.
with the bull rush that knocked him on his
It
ass.
and he had a great week, but
Right.
only thing people remember is Mike Green beating his
But
ass.
Josh Connerly, the tackle from Oregon, was dominating in the drills, dominating. And then he goes up playing right tackle against Mike Green, and Mike Green puts him on his ass in like half a second in a straight up bull rush. It was so impressive to watch. I felt bad for Connerly, but I mean, that's what you see with him on tape with Green. He is quick off the snap, dude. He is, and you gave me your comp for him, and he
Mhm.
does look a lot like him off the snap. He's explosive off the
Yep.
snap. He's strong. He's got incredible burst, and he just attacks immediately. The guy plays with a crazy hot motor. He's really good at speed to power, which is actually better than the guy that you're comping him to, by the way. Um, he's better at him at that. Generates a lot of force, a lot of momentum, and he looks to finish plays. And that's something you watch him do. Like he chases the quarterback, he chases the ball carrier. He never stops his pursuit and wants to close and finish the play and get a tackle, often for a loss. He shows a lot of the traits you need in an edge rusher. He's got fantastic bend. He's got great flexibility. There's a little bit of Aziz Ojolari in the way he bends around the edge. You see that kind of
Mhm.
ability. Um, and you know what? He developed a pretty, and I think he's probably one of the more advanced edge rushers in terms of pass rush repertoire this year. He has the full scale repertoire. He's bendy, quick first step, cross chop, spin move, counters. He has the whole thing and he knows how to use it. If there's a negative, I would say he is a little, and you mentioned this in your notes, he's a little bit smaller. So when he goes into a straight bull rush against some of the bigger tackles, he can get stonewalled at times. Um, he's good against the run, but his edge setting can be inconsistent for the same reason. He's not like this big, stout run defender. Um, and while he has high flash plays, sometimes he doesn't always take over games. Like in the Ohio State game, there were stretches where he looked like he disappeared before he made some big
Mhm.
plays. Um, he doesn't. They didn't use him a lot in coverage, so I can't get into that too much because they didn't use him. He was a pure pass
At
rusher for
all.
them.
Yeah.
But he's so athletic that I have a hard time believing he can't be used in drop zone. If there's any negative about how well he plays, in my mind, it's that he has only one speed. He plays at 150 miles per hour all the time,
It does.
right? And it's sometimes
There's
that
no
works against you.
tempo.
No tempoing. Like everybody knows what's coming. Like if you're the tackle on Mike Green, you're jumping. Like you're on your toes. He's not gonna hit you with like a change of tempo or anything. He's just coming at you real quick. That could be a positive, that could be a negative. But I mean, overall, I love this guy. I really think he's gonna be a stud at the NFL level. What did you think about Mike Green?
Yeah, so I won't leave people hanging here because you alluded to it. My comp for him, and I want people to put what he's been the last couple years out of your head and think of who he was as a prospect. And he reminded me a lot of Kayvon Thibodeau coming out of Oregon, who was a really good prospect. And I think you mentioned it. I think a big thing where I saw it was his burst and his bendy. Although I do think Mike Green's a little bit bendier than Kayvon was, but they both had that. But to me, I thought that they were both speed to power guys in college, and it's something Kayvon dominated a lot at the college level. He just hasn't had the same success at the NFL level. He doesn't have the size to really bull rush people and overwhelm them with the strength. Mike Green does that a lot. And I'll be honest, I question if he'll do that as much in the NFL. Granted, we saw him dominate Josh Connerly, so maybe he will. But he played a lot of lower level competition, and he dominated doing that versus them. And he could still do it versus better competition, but he relies on that a lot. But he does have other moves, like you mentioned. He has a really good cross shot, and he has a vicious spin move. You watch his game versus Ohio State;
Oh
he
yeah.
absolutely dusted the right tackle.
A couple of times. Or
Mhm.
with the same, set up the outside and hit him with the inside spin move and it's over.
Yep. And if you look at Mike Green's I don't let's see if I can pull up his numbers, Mike Green's pro day. He had some crazy numbers from his pro day recently. Let's see. He had a 6.85 three-cone drill and a 4.25 short shuttle. Those are some elite numbers for the edge. And I'll tell you, especially because I already knew about those going into it. Those absolutely show up in film. He is a very, very bursty and agile football player. I still have some questions, how he'll translate to the NFL. I think he struggles with run defense. I don't think his strength is going to translate super well to NFL level, and he needs to really developed more as a finesse rusher. He has some of it, but he definitely needs to develop there. And that's where I see kind of a comparison to Kayvon, because I think that's where Kayvon struggled. I think he needs to continue to develop as a finesse rusher, and that's how he's gonna be successful in the league. And I see that similarly with Mike Green, but Mike Green has the traits to be a high end pass rusher. He has amazing explosiveness in first step, and he is very good bend. His ankle flexibility is so good. Um, he not he and he can sometime you mentioned it, like, show production spurts, but if he can really get that to be a little bit more reliable, I think this is a guy who can be a very, very good player at the next level.
Yep. And since we're going through five guys, let's jump into the scores real quick here.
Yep.
Um, so explosiveness and quickness, we talked about that a lot. You gave him a five, I gave him a four. I could have given him a five. I have a high threshold for a five here.
Yeah, there's both the explosiveness and the bend. I ended up giving it for explosiveness, not bend, but I was close on both of them. I just ended up giving it for one of them.
No, I could have easily done it. Upper body strength and hands, you give him a three. I gave him a four. I do like his hand usage. I agree that his strength, he needs more. He needs to add some power to his frame.
Hmm.
And you don't always know if these guys will. Look at Kayvon, right? We're going into year four, and he hasn't really done that yet. Um, but I do think that he's a slightly above average guy when it comes to hand usage already at the edge setting. I mean, as an edge rusher in pass rush.
Yeah, I just don't think he's very good in the run defense with his hands.
That's fair. Bend is excellent. He's got a four. Pressures, he's excellent. He gets a four, as I mentioned. Edge setting, you gave him a two. I gave him a three. I, I see what you're saying, that he can be bullied at times by bigger
Hmm.
tackles.
And he loses
I
gap integrity at times too.
But the reason I gave him a three is that more often than not, I found that he was a very patient run defender. So when he was truly setting the edge, he wasn't somebody who would lose his positioning easily. He would always like travel with the ball carrier and keep them in the backfield long enough for other guys to make the play. He wasn't the guy jumping in necessarily and making the play, but I think he did a decent enough job where I didn't find him to be a major liability.
Mhm.
Uh, Drop zone, you gave him a 2. I gave him a 3 simply because I think his athleticism will translate. I
Yeah.
know he didn't do
Th-
much of it.
This almost should just be like not available, honestly.
Right. He's so athletic and so quick. I have a hard time believing he can't be used in drop zone.
That's fair.
You gave him a 3.33. I gave him a 3.67. We're just 1 point apart. Durability is 4. You gave him a 2 for Giants grade. I gave him a 3. I do think he could be useful, although we already have a few guys of this prototype.
That's why I gave him a 2. I'm like, we
Yeah.
have this guy.
And Good grade gave him a 4, and I gave him a 3. Overall, a very good edge rusher. He's probably going to go in the first round, I imagine, somewhere in the middle of the first round. But there are, as some people mentioned, there's some sexual assault allegations from the
Mhm.
past. Um, some of it has been dispelled, some of it not. It's not clear. Um, this stuff, whether it ends up being real or not, does tend to hurt kids as they're coming to the draft. So he may slide. Here's a question for you. If Mike Green slid because of these things, his guys slide for stuff like this, and he's
Mhm.
there at pick 34, how high would you think he would be on your board?
I'd have to really know what's the reasons he fell and have more information on that. But he would probably be top of my board like that removed. I mean, I get a lesson Walter Nolan also fell, who I'd
Right,
have
we'll get
higher.
right. Yeah, I think for Giants fit Nolan, but I don't think Green will be far behind. I
Hmm.
think he's so good that I think you have to consider him there. But solid football player, Mike Green.
Hmm.
All right. You want to move on to the next guy?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull him up. So, our next guy is another edge rusher we're going to go through, and then we're going to move on to defensive tackles. And this guy is Donovan Ezeraku, right?
Yep.
Ezeraku, and he is an edge rusher from Boston College, and he's a guy that we kind of missed first time around, but has really risen up draft boards so far. So let me go ahead and pull up his grades here because I have them now. So Donovan Azaraku, as you can see here, for anybody who's watching, he had very good grades. I mean, 90.5 PFF grade, 90.7 on a true pass set grade, 18.2 pass rush win rate, and a 10.1 run stop grade. I mean, really, really good grades here. 14 sacks. Keep in mind, this is from PFF. So any stat sack we're saying here, they count half sacks as one full. So it's probably lower that if you look at other places. But, 20 hits, 26 hurries, really, really productive football player. I mean, we're looking at now with 60 pressures altogether.
Yep.
So I'll tell you what I thought about him. Ezra I thought was a really technically refined pass rusher. I thought
Yep.
he had a really good swim move. I thought he had good counter moves. I thought he tempoed his pass rushes really well. And, a guy who's not the biggest player in the world. I think he was like 6'2.5" or something like
Yep.
that. It was
6'2",
lighter.
245 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But he has 34-inch arms, and that shows. He
Yep.
uses those long arms effectively in his pass rush and in his run defense, where he constantly keeps these guys off him and really quickly can shed and make plays in the run game, which is something that's pretty impressive for a smaller guy. He's a guy who I think will have some success in the NFL uh, in run defense. I also thought he had pretty good bend he showed. Um, but some of the negatives I had, he obviously I mentioned the size concerns, but I also think that got matched with some anchor. He was able to use his length to, limit how much that affected him, but he certainly could get bullied at times. I saw some balance issues. I saw him on the ground just a little bit too often. Um, I didn't think he had like an elite get off or first step. I thought it was pretty good to average. So it was okay because he's not one of these guys that's winning with pure speed. He's a guy who's really winning as more technician. And I'll say, as a guy who I thought was really good in the run games in a lot of ways, the way he could shed and keep guys off him, I felt he lost track of the running back in the backfield at times. I would see him. I feel like a running back would be running right by him, and he wouldn't know he was there until it was too late, or he wouldn't put himself in the proper position to make a play. Overall, I do think Ezaraku is a good player. Um, but I think at the end of the day, that's what he is. He's a good player. He's nothing more than that, in my opinion. What's your opinion, Sal?
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said he's a technician. I mean, he doesn't win with any elite physical trait as an edge rusher. Like, that first step is just very average. It's not bursty in any way, like, like Mike Green. But man, he's really smart. Like when you watch him out there, he has a plan on every snap, and he sets up. Like if you watch him, watch him play after play after play, he really sets up tackles with each pass rush. He sets up the next one, right? He stacks them together, and his go-to move just seems to be this, where he tries to show that he's going to bend around the edge with a false step, and then he quickly counters it to the inside, and then he just changes speed and he gets to the quarterback, and it's like the tackle, you watch the tackles, they're like, how did this slow ass guy get past me and sack my quarterback? And it happens a lot. So he seems to have an understanding of tempoing and control of
Mhm.
pace and using counters. He, like you mentioned, his hands are very impressive. He gets his extension out. He knows how to use them to give himself space to work. And something I noticed about him, I don't know if you saw it, whenever he does get close to a quarterback, he will close, like he will finish the play, and he'll leave his feet a lot. I don't know if you saw that. Like a lot of his sacks, he's off the
Mhm.
ground, right? He gets anywhere near the quarterback, he's jumping to close the play, um, and he's wrapping the quarterback and just taking him down. Right? He's not doing anything like dirty, but he is off his feet and he's just taking him down. And he has a knack for finishing plays. So I appreciated that about his game. Um, I think it's worth going into his grades at this point. I mean, our grading, because I think it sort of shows like where we view him.
Well,
Um,
one thing I want to mention before you go into that was for a guy who we did not see as, at least I didn't see as the most athletic player, he did test really well in like the agility portions at the combine. He led the 3 cone drill at the 6.94 for edges, and he had a 4.19 20-yard shuttle, which also led the edge group. So, he tested very well in that spot. It didn't appear as often as I'd like to see it, but he did test very well.
yep. All right. You want to throw up the grades here?
Yep.
Explosiveness and quickness, we both gave him a 3. Very like solid but average. Upper body strength and hands, we gave him a 4. I forgot what his arm length was. What was it? 34 inches?
34 inches. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and you see it on film. Like he
He
uses that with extension.
constantly uses it. Yeah.
Ben was very average. You got a 3, but he
Mhm.
gets a lot of pressures despite that, and that's because of the technical way which he plays edge.
And I think
He gets a 4.
he has good bend. It's just not, I
It's
didn't
not
feel
elite.
comfortable giving him a 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a first round prospect bend,
Yeah.
right? For an edge
It's like
rusher.
a higher end of average, maybe.
Yeah. Average on the edge as an edge setter. I would say that there are times where I think his lack of size does get exploited.
Hmm.
But again, technically, he's another guy who carries tackles, and he doesn't get bullied completely out of the way. He will carry the edge long enough for somebody else to make the play. Um, Drop zone, I think he was okay. We got it. We gave him a 3. Durability of 4. Giants grade 3. Goon grade 3. We had similar scores. I think we had almost like. Do we have? Yeah, we did have identical scores here. So we
Hmm.
both gave him a 3.33. So a slightly above average edge rusher in the NFL. What does that make him? Um, I think he's a solid edge 2, is how I
Hmm.
look at him, right? If you need an edge 2, somebody who can kind of do everything, but he doesn't do anything elite, but he has some technically refined moves to sometimes get pressure, he's good value. Now, I see people mocking this guy like late first, early second. I don't see that. How about you?
No. No, because the upside isn't there for me to feel comfortable taking him that early. He's going to be a good football player. I could take him second, but I would want him like on like a team that's like a playoff competitor in the second round. That's where I
Yeah.
take him.
I'm not sure I would have a top 50 grade on this guy, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
You
he
know?
might slip into the 50-ish, but I agree.
Yeah. Good player, but I don't think much higher than that. I wouldn't take him with our first 2 picks.
I wouldn't either.
All right. What are we up to now? Are we doing our linebacker now?
We're doing the 2D linemen next.
Oh goodness. Let me go
So
backwards. I'm going back. Tell me what page I'm on.
let's see.
For those who don't know, we have this gigantic master file that we've
Yeah,
been creating all year
we should have
with
done a spreadsheet. That's my bad.
right. We have this master file with all of the prospects we reviewed. Our notes on them are great. We're up to like 100 and I don't know,
That's
180 pages or 100 something like
yeah,
some
this is
pages.
page
It's like a
104 he's on.
104. Okay, it's
Mhm.
like a novel, but it's got all this data and stuff on it. It's actually pretty cool. We're going to reference it, but all right, 104. Um, all right, let's talk about this guy. And this is one I couldn't wait to talk about. Some of you have asked, are we going over this guy? We're definitely going over this guy. And all I'll say is I've been waiting to do his review, and he did not disappoint. So our next guy is defensive tackle Derek Harmon from Oregon, 6'5", 310 pounds. Derek Harmon has had a hell of a year. 14 games played, 591 defensive snaps, from playing mostly three tech, 5 sacks, 7 hits, 43 hurries from defensive tackle. 43. That's a ridiculous number. 2 batted balls. He lined up in the A gap 28 snaps, B gap 353, over tackle 188, outside tackle 21, and even had a snap as an off ball linebacker. 86.3 pass rush grade, 80.5 run defense grade, 91.2 true pass set rush pass rush grade, 17.6% pass rush win rate from a three tech, which is sick. That is almost elite for an edge rusher. This guy did it as a three tech, and a 7.1% run stop rate, which is not quite elite, but it's above average. This guy is the truth. When you watch Derek Harmon's tape, you see a serious three down lineman. So, what's he good at? Well, for one thing, much like Mike Green, except from the interior, he's off the snap. This guy has elite quickness and leverage. He explodes off the snap and attacks the offensive line immediately. He can win by either two gapping and just bullying his way in, or he can win by being a one gapping penetrator. He wins in every way possible as a three tech. He's a great pass rusher. He's a damn good run defender, as I mentioned. He's difficult to stop, even with double teams. Like he's not going to necessarily generate a lot of pass rush, but he's hard to move, even on double teams. And he
Yeah,
will
he doesn't get
shed,
pushed back
and
either.
he will shed from double teams and make plays, which is very impressive. His superpower is that he really has that elite burst and great that great leverage with low pads most of the time. Every now and then you'll see him get a little sloppy with his technique. I don't know if it's just fatigue because he plays so many snaps. He will get high at times with his leverage,
Mhm.
and he'll get caught off balance when that happens. I don't have much negative to say about him. The guy was an impact player, difficult to block. Now, granted, he had Jamari Caldwell eating up blocks for him in the middle,
Mhm.
which helped him, right? He didn't have to face a ton of double teams because Jamari Caldwell was two gapping a lot. It allowed him the maneuverability to be a penetrating three tech. But boy, he did it really well. So I love Derek Harmon, dude, and I came away from that thinking, I don't know how this guy doesn't get taken in the first round.
Yeah, I was really interested to take a full look in Derek Harmon because I might have needed to look a little bit deeper into Dorless last year. He was a guy I really liked from the same school, and he ended up falling. And I was like, am I not looking deep enough into Harmon? So I really wanted to give him a good look and see what I felt about this guy. If there's anything about the scheme or whatnot, but I'm fully set. This guy is the truth. I don't feel the way I do about like Walter Nolan with him. I think Walter Nolan is like a difference maker. He's a guy that like is just causes so much havoc for an offense and constantly is being an impact player from play to play. But Harmon is just never has a negative play, it feels like. That was one thing I picked up on him is I felt like even when he isn't like winning the rep, he is rarely being beat. He always feels like he is making some sort of move, getting some sort of pressure, putting himself in the position to make a play. He's not getting taken out of play or anything like that. He one thing I noticed too, this he seems like a really high IQ football player. I don't know if you noticed this, but I constantly saw him communicating with his D line, shifting his D line over depending on the offensive formation. See, he really seemed like the leader of that front seven, which is something you love to see. Um, Overall, his hand usage I thought was phenomenal. That was probably to me that was like a superpower. I thought he had a really good like hook and rip move that he uses the pass rush, but it also just felt like he was always in control of the offensive lineman's hands and arms. Like in like the run defense, he's just constantly able to like the lineman feels like he has Harmon. He has him blocked for the things, and he just grabs his arms, moves them out of the way, and makes a play. He's so good at having control over that with the offensive lineman that they never really have him. He uses his length to keep him off him, and then easily able to bat the arms off him and make a play. Um, so he is a really good run defender on top of being just a constant threat as a pass rusher. And I think you kind of see it here, 5 sacks, 7 hits. That's not numbers you see of a guy who is like constantly being an impact player who is like really becoming like causing huge negative plays for the offense. But the difference is, like you mentioned, so 43 hurries. This is a guy who's constantly getting pressure on the quarterback in some shape or form. He's just a guy who is going to be a good football player and not just a very good football player. Um, there's a really, really high floor, pretty high ceiling like guy. Um, I think you add him day one, he is a above average NFL defensive tackle, easy.
Matt asked in the chat, are there any games in particular that where Harmon was worth watching, where he shined? I would say there were two that stood out. Definitely the first Ohio State game,
Yep.
where he was a menace. Now he didn't have a ton of pressures. I think he only had 3 pressures in that game,
Yep.
but he had a forced fumble, he had a stop. Um, but he was dominating rep after rep. Like it was impossible to not see him with his pushback power. His
I think
he
they had a
he put
called
the
back sack too.
Right. And he put it all on display in that game, right? He pressured directly with pushback power. He one gapped a bunch. Like he was tough in that game. The
Mm-hmm.
other game, which again, slightly lesser competition, but the Boise State game, he was a menace. He had 8. If you watch that game, he had 8 pressures in that game. He was in the backfield the whole time. So
Yeah.
those two games are just an impressive showcase. That was the game where Ashton Genty tried to carry them by himself single-handedly against Oregon and almost
Mm-hmm.
won the game. So that was impressive to watch. But even despite that, Harmon was a menace in those. So those are the two games. If you want to see Derek Harmon, I would watch those two: the first Ohio State game and the Boise State game.
Yeah, I
But
I agree with you.
yeah, yeah. Um, let's jump to the grades, and then we'll talk a little bit more about him as we do this. So I didn't. Did you score out your total grade here? Let me do the math
Um,
here.
I'll do it if I didn't.
7, 11, 16, 20, 24. You gave him a 4.
There we
Um,
go.
Yeah,
Wow.
so you gave him a 4.0 and I gave him a 3.83. So very high grades. Strength, we both gave him a 4. Leverage, we both gave him a 4. Jump, we gave him a 3. I could have given him a 4 on the jump here because of how
Mm-hmm.
quickly he gets off the snap. Quickness, we gave him a 4. Hands, you gave him a 5. That's the only difference. I gave him a 4. Um, I probably could have given him a 5 here, to be honest. Balance, I gave him a 4. So did you. Giants fit 5. Somewhere between a 3.83 and 4. So we're grading him out as a guy who should be not only above average, but kind of a borderline Pro Bowl level talent.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of what he could be at the NFL level. That he looked that good on tape this year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
uh,
like, it's like I saw a different, like, I still like Walter Nolan better because I think Walter Nolan is just the way he impacts a game is just more dominant. He's a more dominant player. But like I said, Walter Nolan is just, he's so good. He's just so good.
yeah, Harmon is a guy, and I mentioned the Jamari Caldwell bit because I think that's important here. Jamari Caldwell is a good nose tackle. And he's a solid two gapper who just eats blocks, right? And he's a good run defender. It allowed Derek Harmon to do what he did. Harmon is a perfect fit on the Giants, like a perfect fit because there's no, I mean, and we can say that about a lot of these guys just because of the presence of Dexter Lawrence, but the menace that I can see Harmon being with Dexter Lawrence next to him is probably, something that would be terrifying for the rest of the NFC East. It is tough to block both of them. It would be really hard to block both these guys. So he's a perfect fit. If somehow, some way, he was close, like if we take somebody at pick three and we're holding on to 34 and he's sliding for whatever reason, I would be totally fine trading up for this guy. Like this is one of
Yeah.
those players I would be fine trading up and getting.
I would love to come out of this draft with at that second round pick with either Nolan or Harmon.
Yep. Loved him. All right. What that was he was our third player, right? That we went over?
Yep.
All right. We want to go over the fourth. What page is the fourth guy?
He should be right below him.
I'm
106 or
looking.
something.
We done this yet? Who is it?
It's next guy
106?
I'll introduce him is D-Kit, our guy, his guy,
Oh yeah, of
Darius
course.
Alexander. Darius Alexander out of Toledo. Same school as Quentin why am I blanking his name? Quentin from the Eagles corner that they
Quinyon
drafted.
Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell. Thank you. Quinyon Mitchell. We were very high on last year. His teammate, another smaller school guy, but a guy who's just really a dominant football player. And I was really impressed what I saw from Darius Alexander. Let's go over these stats though real quick. This was a guy who had 4 sacks, 8 hits, 25 hurries, and 3 batted balls. So not the most impressive numbers there, but good. But you look at a 78 pass rush grade, a 90.3 run defense grade, a 12.3 pass rush win rate, and a 79.5 true pass set rush grade with a 7.9 run stop rate. But let me go into some of my thoughts about him. Let's see. What Darius Alexander, he really showed good pass rush ability, in my opinion, despite kind of those numbers. I thought that was something he excelled at. I thought he was really, really good swim move, had really violent hands that really allowed him to cause pressure. And I thought he tempoed well too. He had a really good mix between where he just looks like he's firing out of a cannon the second he goes in line, low, hands out, and just absolutely blows up an offensive lineman. And other times he comes off the snap and he shows a little bit more tempo. At some that mix I think is really good for him. Yeah, he has an insane motor though. Is the guy who is just constantly working and just one of those hair on fire type guys. Almost doesn't even seem like he has a good enough pass rush plan at time. It seems like he's just going after it. He's just he's just an explosive player who's just using everything to go after the quarterback. I thought he played with really good leverage. When he was pass rushing, I don't know. I didn't check on this if he was ever a wrestler, but the way he uses leverage was reminiscent of a wrestler to me. He had good versatility. They had him play all over that line, inside, outside, from the really 0 to 5. And then you noticed here 3 batted balls. He's a guy who always tries to get his hands into the passing lanes. He's a guy who also had that on special teams as well. He's a guy who batted some field goals and things like that. But some of my negatives on him. I thought he had some anchor issues. I didn't think it showed up constantly because he had such a good get off and used such good leverage that it really was hard to get into a position where that anchor really showed up. But when he did get, put into a bad spot, he didn't really have the strength to hold there. D-Kit said he was a wrestler. So, I mean, that makes sense to me. So yeah, and occasionally I did see him, as much as I really liked his leverage, especially in the pass rush. I did think he lost it occasionally in run defense. He could be a little bit better there. I mentioned, I think he got a better pass rush plan at times. He just kind of plays, crazy athleticism and like that motor, and it doesn't always look like he has a plan. He can lose cap integrity at the time. I think he could be a little bit better in like a stack and shed type ability in the run game. But overall, I do think I say all those things about his run. I do think he's a good run defender. There's just little nitpicky stuff there. But he is just if you like guys who are just those high motor, uh, like athletic defensive linemen who are always going to be trying to make an impact, then that's Darius Alexander. And I love watching guys like that. What'd you think, Sal?
You got most of it. The way Alexander is a guy that I think there is still more there. There's more juice left to squeeze out of this guy's game as a pass rusher. I think he has pretty significant knockback power, right? When
Definitely.
he's an elite two gapper, right? He lines up on the face of whether he's typically only in the B gap, right? That's where he lives. He lines up on a guard. He will drive him backwards consistently. Like it's not common that you see any guards hold their ground against him in a one-on-one situation. But he doesn't always convert that into a pass rush, right? He just pushes back and he uses his arm length, which is significant, the 34-inch arms, to drive guys backwards, keep them off his body. They can't get their hands on him. He's just got longer reach than that. But he doesn't turn it into pass rush enough. That's where he has potential. I feel like that's a little bit untapped, despite him being a 6th-year player. I feel like that's something that, with his natural raw skills, you can tap into if you can teach him how to convert that to a pass rush. But what he does that's already elite, as you mentioned, is his run defense. The guy he's just a force in the run game. He's not quite Tyreek Williams, but he's close. Like, he's pretty close as a run defender. Um, Completely immovable, right? You can't double team this guy and move him. He's not going backwards. He's only coming forward. And you watch him, he keeps guards off him with that arm length. He doesn't turn it into a pass rush, but when there's a run play, he's got his eyes on the play, right? He's got distance between himself and the guard, and he just swallows running backs anywhere near him. You notice that he's like a black hole. They go
Mm-hmm.
anywhere near him, and he quickly sheds and just devours these guys. So he's an elite run defender. You put him on the Giants next to Dexter Lawrence, and you tell him, eat blocks, take away the run game, let Dex do the rest. Nobody's running up the middle anymore. Like, he'll get you. He's got incredible reach, and he'll take away that run game. I think that's a remarkable skill, kind of like Dalvin Tomlinson, right? There's a little bit of that in that play style, although I think he's got a little bit, believe it or not, I think his physical gifts are a little bit more than Dalvin had.
Yeah.
Now, a negative on him, I mentioned the pass rush. I don't think he's a guy who's consistent every down, right? I feel like he gets tired, and there are
Mm-hmm.
plays where he looks like, where his motor is hot on a lot of plays. There's several plays where he looks like he's got nothing in the tank. So I wonder if he's one of these guys that, like, kind of like Jordan Davis, right? Like, can he really keep it up at that pace every down? I think that remains to be seen. But at minimum, an elite run defender, early downs at minimum, and that's worth, to me, a high second round pick.
Yeah, it's funny. We saw him a little bit differently, and the grades do agree with you. But I saw a guy had a lot of pass rush upside, and I thought I didn't love his defense as much as the grades say. So it'll be interesting as these grades play out.
I just love the way he pursues the ball carrier.
Yeah, I
Where
agree
if
with
they come,
that.
like anywhere near him, he has strength. He keeps guards off him. I think that's kind of his superpower, right? He gets leverage. He gets into their chest. He drives them backwards with his strength, and then they can't even reach him. They look
He
like
has
little T-Rexes
good
trying to get to him.
leverage, good
Yeah,
pop, violent hands,
right.
all that.
And he holds those guards. And if the ball carrier comes anywhere near him, he has the lateral quickness to go get them, and he does
Yeah.
it frequently. And I think that's a real skill. So let's get into his grades. Did you enter his grades? You did. So strength, you gave him a 3. I gave him a 5. We have a big difference in opinion here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he's strong as shit. So why did you give him a 3?
Because I didn't think it was strength personally. I thought he had extremely good get off. I thought he had very good leverage, but I felt like when those weren't there, I did see him get pushed around a little bit. I didn't think that his strength was. I thought his strength was more a component of those two things, and it was him just being a dominant, like, takeover strength guy.
Okay. Leverage, we both gave him a 4. We could have given him a 5 here, honestly.
Yeah,
His leverage is outstanding.
I saw him lose it at times.
Yeah.
You
I
mentioned
think
getting tired, probably
I,
part of that.
I think he
Um,
fatigues when you
yeah,
watch him. like play after play, he's not consistent every single play. I do think he
He,
fatigues. He's a
and
big
I
dude, so I wouldn't be surprised.
and I think he's more like, and I think I noticed it in run defense more, but I think it's probably more of just like when he wants to bring it is when he wants to get after a quarterback. That's when he's like fuck being tired. I'm not I'm going after him, and that's more like when he's hands on hip.
Yep. Jump, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. I think you were more impressive with his elite jump ability. I thought it was
I
good, not
I
great.
thought he looked like a shot out of a cannon at times.
Really. I mean,
Mhm.
I gotta go back and watch some more. Quickness, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3 here. I think he's good. I could have given him a 4. I just feel like, I mean, I thought it was maybe slightly above average, so I stuck with a 3, but I could have gone to 4.
Mhm.
Hands, you gave him a 3. I gave him a 4 here. I like the way he used his arms. So we
Yeah,
we have some disagreements here.
yeah. I was close between 3 and 4 in this one. Um, I really liked his hands in pass rush, but I thought he needed a little bit more. Again, we were a little bit different on looking at his run defense.
Balance, we both gave him a 3. Giants fit,
Hmm.
we both gave him a 4. Potential, we gave him a 4. Going grade 4. You have him at a 3.5. I have him at 3.67. So I'm just slightly ahead of you in the overall grading. But is he a fit at pick 34 for the Giants? Yeah, 100%. Like, really
Yeah,
good fit, actually.
and I think I talked about this with DK, but he mentioned it in the chat. The one thing to keep in mind is he's going to be 25 this season. He's going to be a 25-year-old rookie, which is
Yeah.
by the time
So,
he gets to the end of his rookie contract, he's going to be approaching 30.
so if you take that, what does that mean, right? It means that the stuff you call upside, which in his case would probably be his pass rush,
Hmm.
may not get developed the way you think,
Hmm.
right? So what you're left with is what you see is what you get. What you're getting is an elite run defender, in my opinion. Like at the NFL level, this guy is
Hmm.
is is quite good. I think it's worth a swing. Now, will he go that high? I don't know. I mean, he's from a small school. He's older. He could slide, right? He could slide because of that, but I don't think he's going to slide very far. I think he's a top 50 pick.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he's a very good football player. He's kind of I think he's probably like my next after the Harmon Nolan types. I gotta look at CJ Sanders a little bit more, but
He serves a role as he is, and he can fit.
I
So
I would prefer him to Tyler Williams. I'll say that
yeah, really.
because
Okay, I want to hear this. Why do you prefer him to Tyleek Williams?
I think he offers a lot more pass rush upside than Tyler Williams does.
Okay, I mean I agree with that, but Tyleek Williams is so good. Like
Yeah,
as a run defender, he's just a 3 down guy. Just throw him out there, and he does his job.
yeah. I just want a pass rusher on this team, and like obviously I we need run defense too, but I think a guy who can take advantage of the double teams Dex eats is something I really want.
All right, um, let's go to the next guy who I'm still finishing up my grade on. I have a very good grade on him actually. Um, so is this our last guy actually?
This is our last guy.
All right, so our last guy, sorry, Matt, is Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. Jahad Campbell, let me just pull up his stuff. He came in, his measurements were, I have him here, give me 1 second. 6'3", just under 6'3", 235 pounds, 32.5 inch arms, 10.5 inch hands. Um, Jahad Campbell is being mocked in the first round, often in the top 10. Although I don't think he's going to end up going in the top 10, but a really promising prospect. I don't think he's somebody the Giants would take, but we have to go over him because we haven't gone over him. Um, Very productive, Monty, as a player. This year he played 781 snaps. He lined up all over, and this is his strength, right? He's a very versatile linebacker. He lined up on the D line, 112 snaps, 27 snaps in the slot, one as a corner, but he's mainly a box in the box as an inside linebacker, 637 snaps there, 4 deep. He had a total of 89 tackles, 23 assisted, and he had a bunch of different snaps. His grades, like I said, he lines up everywhere. 76.3 pass rush grade, which is very good for a linebacker, for an off-ball linebacker. 81 rush grade, run defense grade, 80.1 coverage grade with a 3.3 average depth of run tackle, 3.3 yards, and he's missed 5.9% of his tackles. That matters because you expect your linebackers to tackle. 5.9% is elite. That's really low. I mean, if you guys remember when we go over this, we often see numbers like 10%, 12%, because they have so many opportunities. It's a very good player. Um, what you see when you watch Jihad Campbell is just a versatile, like these modern hybrids. Like I kept thinking Isaiah Simmons when I watched him.
Yeah,
I don't know what,
I
right?
thought that too.
He reminds me so much of Clemson Isaiah Simmons. Great length and size. The measurables are awesome. He's a very instinctive player. When you watch him, whether he's in coverage or whether he's coming down the A gap on a blitz, very instinctive to the ball carrier. When he's in coverage, he has a feel for watching the quarterback's eyes and getting himself in throwing lanes. He had pass breakups and picks. Um, he kind of does it all. Like he can cover in zone. He has the speed and athleticism to cover in man in short areas, and he's got explosive ability coming downhill as a pass rusher or as like a makeshift edge. Sometimes used in like NASCAR type packages. He's tough as nails. He's a great tackler. Um, but he's not a perfect prospect. He has some issues. Sometimes he will get washed at second level blocks. He is tackling while he's a good tackler. He will get overpowered sometimes for despite being a guy his size. Um, and overall, like he does kind of play high, so he doesn't. He lines up as a on the D line a lot, but he plays like an off ball linebacker on the D line sometimes, and he doesn't play with leverage, and he can get beat that way. Um, Overall, though, this is a really good instinctive overall off-ball linebacker. He's an impact player at linebacker. This is your typical like day one linebacker in the NFL, right? An off-ball linebacker that can do it all. The modern NFL. He's an eraser on defense, really solid. There are some medical red flags. Matt shared them. I think he had an ACL injury, he had a bunch of other injuries. So there are some issues here with Jihad Campbell that may hurt his draft stock. But what did you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, Jihad Campbell was a really interesting watch for me. I mean, like you mentioned it. He's not, he's this new age linebacker, this hybrid, and I'm having trouble trying to, project those guys to the NFL. Um, you know, you really haven't seen a clean like transition. Like you saw like a Micah Parsons, but that wasn't like he was just so good at everything that he ended up just getting made full-time edge because he was so fucking good at edge. Like like easily if you're elite at linebacker and edge rusher, you're gonna work in the NFL. That's not a doubt. But trying to just find a role for these guys be interesting. But I'll tell you what I saw a guy with like elite athleticism for the position. Very like guy who just came around, like flew around the ball. Really explosive football player, really good closing speed to chase down players and play sideline to sideline. Um, a true like Swiss Army knife. He can blitz. I thought he could cover a lot better than I thought he would for a guy that is really more of a blitzing linebacker and can play that true off-ball linebacker as well. But I mean, I mentioned it. His bread and butter is blitzing ability. He is an elite blitzer from the linebacker position. Let's see, what else did I have? I thought he was a strong tackler. I thought he wrapped up and finished plays with force. I thought he has long arms, and I thought he used those very well, whether it was shedding blocks, affecting passing lanes, or wrapping up the ball carrier. My Nick Kanza had him. I thought he lacked some natural instincts for the position.
Hmm.
A guy who was more of a former edge rusher. I do think he's good with all that considered, but I still think there's some nuances to the position that he's learning there. I think he needs to improve as like a stack and shed linebacker. I don't necessarily think that his game. He's more just a fly around and hit people type linebacker, in my opinion. And if he wants to be a like edge rusher at the next level, he needs to improve his pass rush arsenal. It's very good for linebacker position,
It's
but
just
as an edge
straight. It's
rusher, it
just
needs work.
straight line speed right now, is what
Yeah,
it is.
correct. So I think he needs some work there. But overall, I do like him. I think he's good in a lot of areas, and I think he's a high upside player.
Yeah. Um, the medical issues are going to be tough, right? The shoulders, ACL. Um, you take a beating like that in college, and you come out with a lot of medical red flags. We've seen players of his caliber slide, slide into day two. Wouldn't shock me, right? He plays a quote non-premium position at off-ball linebacker, and he's coming in with red flags that are, that medical red flags. It's easy to see teams saying, no. I mean, to be a linebacker that gets taken early in the first round, you have to have kind of the whole thing. You have to have his elite package of versatility, but you kind of have to be healthy too, right? And people have to believe that you're going to be a high impact player for a long time. I wouldn't be shocked if the medicals took him out of the first round. It depends
Mhm.
on how they come out, but it is a risk to take this guy because when you take a guy, especially a non-quarterback in the first round, you're expecting him to be an impact cornerstone player for your organization, not for 4 years, but for more than that, right? You want that guy on a second contract, whatnot. Um, if you're worried about his durability and longevity in the NFL and he's in a non-premium position, are you spending pick 16 or 17 or 18 on him? I don't know, right? That's maybe he gets taken in the back half of round one because of the pure talent. I wouldn't be surprised if he slid out though. There's a lot of good players that are like kind of in the same area in terms of talent level that are batched together in that back half of round one, and I could see them all just getting taken ahead of him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if with the injury concerns, you can certainly see this guy fall.
Yeah. But he's a good football player. Like, the fit here would be, let's say he's healthy or healthy enough, and he fell again to 34. Do the Giants have a vision in which they take him and pair him with Bobby Okereke?
Hmm.
And have two elite athletes playing the position at middle linebacker. I mean, this is the Ravens do this, right? They focus on their off-ball linebackers. They go center out. The 49ers do this, right? Their defense starts in the middle with their linebackers. What do you think about an approach like that?
I think he'd be a horrific fit with Shane Bowen.
Interesting, because of his lack of ability to use versatile pieces.
Yes, correct. Because of Shane Bowen, not because of him, not because
You
of
just
Campbell.
argued with me for like 20 minutes in the beginning of the show about how they're all going to get fired anyway. So
It's true. I'm not saying
yeah,
don't take him. I'm just saying I don't think it's a good fit.
I
My
gotcha.
my Giants fit is not good.
Right. No, I gotcha. I agree with you. I don't think he's a great Giants fit just because of where he'd have to get taken, the injuries with Bowen, the whole bit. But he's a good football player. And if his medicals check out enough, somebody's going to get him with some value, I think. He's
Mhm.
going to be one of the better linebackers in the NFL, I think. As long as he stays healthy, I think he'll actually be one of the better
Yeah.
linebackers in the NFL.
And as you pointed out, or he's a very Ravens Steelers like pick, and that's how you that's how you know these guys are good values because they always
He,
get the good
he just
values.
feels like a Steeler, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He
a
kind of
Raven.
does. Or a Niner. I wouldn't
Hmm.
be surprised if the Niners took this guy. They just lost Dre Greenlaw, right? Where are they actually, no, they're drafting too high. Where are they? Like 11 or something like that?
Like 12, I
The-
think, or no,
oh,
11.
That's the 12 is the
Cowboys are 12,
Cowboys. Yeah.
something
Um,
like that.
if he was healthy, I could see the Niners taking a swing. They'll probably go offensive line, I imagine. But yeah, there's some teams that could take a swing at this guy. All right, that's our five. So, guys, we unfortunately didn't get to for whatever reason before we got to them now. Um,
We gotta go through the grades too.
oh, I'm sorry. Forgot about his grades. All right. So speed and quickness, we both gave him a four. Power and strength, both gave him a four. He has knockback power. Instincts, you gave him a two. I gave him a four here. We have a big difference in instincts here. So
Hmm.
why'd you give him a two?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it when I was going through it. I think he's lacks some of the natural instincts for the position. A guy, that's recently kind of like switched to the position, a former edge rusher. I think that he's still kind of working that out. I mean, he plays so fast that I think he plays with fast and plays with intention. That I think that he is a productive, good football player. But don't see him as like an instinctive NFL linebacker day one.
I gave him a four because mainly because of his coverage. Because despite
Mhm.
being new to the position, he's very instinctive in coverage,
Mhm.
and especially in just tracking the quarterback's eyes and making plays on the football, disrupting passing lanes. I thought he was very good at that stuff. And I think that's a big part of being an off-ball linebacker in today's NFL is being able to take away throwing lanes. So
Yeah.
We have a little disagreement there, but that's fine. I gave him a 4 in coverage. You gave him a 3, but I just mentioned why.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was really good at coverage for what I expected. And for a pass rush first, like linebacker, I don't expect them to have good coverage. And he is like fully capable of doing it. And his speed allows him to have upside that he could even be, a high end coverage guy eventually, in my opinion.
Pass rush, we both gave him a 4. We mentioned why.
Hmm.
Tackling, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. I only gave him a 3 because there were times where I thought his technique was sloppy, even though he doesn't miss a lot of tackles. It was
Yeah.
probably being
I,
nitpicky.
he also just lights people up when he tackles them.
He does. He's really physical. I didn't give him a durability grade, but I mean, I think the health is an issue, so it's a 2 really. And the Giants grade is probably a 2 to 3. Goon
Yeah.
grade, I like it as 4. Overall, you had a 3.5 on him. I have a 3.83 on him. I think I mean, he's an excellent linebacker. If we had a more complete roster, Monty, and we had our quarterback settled and most of the roster settled, and we were drafting in the middle of the first round, or the back half of the first round, I would love to take a guy like Campbell because I think he's a difference maker.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
I mean,
I
I think
yeah,
he's the type of linebacker that needs the right defensive coordinator to fully utilize him. And I think if you don't get that, I think these guys are risky. But I think if you get that, he could be a really successful player in this league. It's funny because I think these versatile, like you mentioned, like new age linebackers, I do think they go high, and I think that's what people are looking for. But I
they don't know how
think
to use him.
they don't know how to fucking use them yet.
So it's like Zaven Collins. I say, oh, what am I saying? This guy's a Cardinal. What am I doing? Yeah, Isaiah Simmons,
Yeah,
Zaven
he's a Cardinal.
Collins, and
You're
all the
right.
yeah, like they
I
take
think
these guys
I,
year after year, right? Who was the guy who went to the Steelers a couple of years ago? Herbig, Nick Herbig, um,
mhm.
right? Similar kind of thing. There's a bunch of these guys. So yeah, I mean, teams don't know how to use them.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily going to ruin a linebacker 1 year, but I do think he'll be a non-factor for the 1 year that is Bowen.
That's right. All right, so that's our 5 that we went through for today. Wow, an hour and 22 minutes. Just that's record speed, even with a 22-minute argument to start a
Yeah.
show. Yeah,
Well, look at us.
we're flying. All right, so that's our episode for today. Tune in next week. We're gonna do our big board reveal with our buddy KSIXI. If you don't follow him, he's awesome. Um, uh, he's another fellow physician, busy guy. He's a young family, but so he's stepped away from this stuff a little bit. But he always creates a great draft board. He puts a lot of thought into it. He did it with us last year, so we'll do our reveal of our big board next week with him. And then I think we're exactly 4 weeks from the draft, so the last few weeks are going to be intense in terms of going over final stuff in preparation for the draft. A lot of stuff going on with the Giants. We'll see where this lands. You have any closing comments here?
One thing I did want to shout out, for anybody who's looking to do their big board with us, Matt, he's been in the chat and is a good friend of ours. He just created a good big board tool. We should share that on our He's a Giant Twitter and make it available. But that's something I'm sure we will utilize when we're building it. But
Yes, that's Professor O in the chat. Cowboys fan, but still a good person despite being a Cowboys fan. Um, we appreciate Matt, and that was an awesome tool, by the way. It's a great tool for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's just like exactly what you look for. He kind of did the work for us in drafting and creating that thing, so it's awesome for the big board. So that was great work. Follow him if you don't already. Follow us at He's a Giant Pod. Follow me at Queens underscore guy. Follow Monty at MonteCri5TO. Make sure you DM Monty and call him terrible things for his stupid idea of supporting the stupid idea that he started the show with, wanting to try to get Shador Sanders like swing back in the first round and get him after taking a
be
Travis
pretty
Hunter
cool. Be pretty
because
cool.
all he wants to see is everybody get fired. So
If
otherwise,
not, we get something cool.
we got something cool. We got a new cool toy. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Remember, gaslighting isn't real. You're just crazy. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate all of you. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. Go Giants.
Go Giants.